Welcome to the channel for another exciting video. Most people who watch our videos are not subscribed, so I kindly ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Your like is crucial for YouTube to understand that this content is relevant, so please like, share, and leave your comment. Now, let's get to the story. Claire was in her small kitchen, the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air, when her cell phone vibrated on the table. She picked it up, looking at the caller ID, and frowned upon seeing an unknown number. Hesitant, she answered. "Hello?" Her voice was uncertain. "Claire?" The voice on the other end was hoarse and tense. "You need to listen to me. Don't touch the house you inherited. Don't get involved with the past. It's dangerous." "Who are you?" Claire questioned, a chill starting to spread in her stomach. "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that you should leave everything as it is. There are secrets that should not be revealed." The call abruptly cut off, leaving Claire with the feeling that something sinister was lurking. With her mind racing, Claire quickly got dressed and went to the basement, where Luke, her boyfriend, was working. He was surrounded by a pile of boxes and tools, trying to organize the space that had been long abandoned. When she entered, Claire saw his focused expression, but when he noticed her, he smiled. "Hey, babe, come help me out here. There's so much to clean." She hesitated, remembering the call. "Luke, I got a strange call. Someone warned me not to mess with the house." Luke frowned. "Don't worry. It's probably just someone trying to scare you. This house is full of stories and probably a lot of urban legends, too. Look, come help me open this box here." Claire approached and started rummaging through the boxes, but the unease wouldn't leave her. As they sifted through the items, a low, dragging noise echoed through the basement walls. They stopped, attention focused on the source of the sound. "Did you hear that?" Claire asked, her heart racing. "Yeah, it sounds like it's coming from the wall," Luke replied, his tone now more serious. "Let's see what it is." With a surge of courage, Luke grabbed a tool and began to hammer the wall. Each strike made the sound resonate louder, as if something or someone was trapped on the other side. After a few moments of tension, he finally broke through a section of the wall. Dust filled the air and a hole opened, revealing an oppressive darkness. "Luke, be careful," Claire exclaimed, taking a step back. But Luke, full of curiosity, stepped forward, shining the flashlight he held into the darkness. Inside the hole was a shadowy room, with walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with unsettling energy. The temperature in the room dropped, and Claire felt a shiver run down her spine. "This is strange," Luke murmured, his voice trembling slightly. "We should get out of here. We can't mess with this," Claire insisted, fear growing within her. But Luke, excited by the discovery, ignored the warning. "Look at these symbols. We need to document this. It could be something important." The heavy air around them seemed to vibrate with an invisible presence, and Claire felt increasingly anxious. "Luke, please, can we just close this up and call someone? We don't need to get involved with whatever this is." But he was already approaching the entrance to the room. "Just one more second, Claire. Just 1 second." With one last look at the dark space, Claire held her breath, her protective instinct kicking in. "Luke, I really don't like this. Let's leave now." He hesitated, but seeing Claire's worried expression, he finally agreed. "Okay, let's go. But we need to come back later and investigate more." As they returned to the basement, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that the call and the discovery of the dark room were just the beginning of something much deeper and disturbing, something that was waiting to be unearthed. Luke and Claire were immersed in the work of renovating the basement of the old inherited house. The atmosphere, filled with dust and shadows, seemed to hide more than just forgotten objects. As Luke removed floorboards, Claire stepped back a bit, observing the cramped and dark space. The echo of hammers and tools mingled with the oppressive silence until a peculiar sound broke the monotony. "Did you hear that?" Claire asked, her heart racing. "I heard," Luke replied, looking around, a shiver running up his spine. "It sounds like it's coming from that wall." They approached the wall where the sound seemed most intense. It was a muffled noise, as if something or someone was trapped on the other side. Luke, with a determined look, grabbed a sledgehammer. "Let's find out what's in here." Claire hesitated. "Are you sure? What if it's something Cursed. Cursed or not, we need to know. This house isn't going to swallow us, Luke said, already starting to break down the wall. The impact of the sledgehammer reverberated through the basement, and with each blow, Claire's anxiety increased. Finally, a space opened, revealing a dark room. The faint light from their flashlights illuminated strange symbols drawn on the walls. The air turned cold, as if an invisible presence was watching them. Luke and Claire exchanged apprehensive glances. "This is strange," Claire murmured, as she approached a corner of the room. She could feel the tension in the air, as if something was about to happen. "Strange is an understatement," Luke replied, examining the symbols. "It looks like this is some kind of ritual." In the center of the room, they spotted an object covered by a tarp. Luke pulled the tarp, revealing a dusty old diary. "Look, a diary. It might have information about who lived here." Claire reached out to grab the diary, but Luke stopped her. "Let's see together. We don't know what else might be here." When they opened the diary, they found yellowed, handwritten pages, but one page was torn out. Why would someone tear out a page? What were they hiding? Luke pondered, frustration evident in his voice. "Maybe something important," Claire suggested, looking at the rest of the diary. "Let's search for more clues." While they examined the space, Claire spotted a framed photograph. She picked it up, and her heart raced as she recognized her grandmother, Margaret. On the back of the photo, only one word was written: "Traitor." "Luke, you need to see this," Claire said, her voice trembling. "Margaret," Luke whispered, reading what was written. "What did she do?" "I don't know, but this isn't good," Claire replied, fear spreading in her chest. "We need to find out more about her." As they talked, an object in the room caught Luke's attention. It was an old clock stopped at an exact time. He approached it, and to his surprise, the clock began to work, marking the hours with a deafening tick-tock. "This is impossible," Luke exclaimed, his gaze fixed on the clock that seemed to have come to life. "How can it be working after all this time?" "This only makes things worse," Claire replied, her eyes wide. "I feel like we're delving into something we don't understand. We need to dig deeper." "We can't stop now," Luke said, determined. "What else has our family hidden about this house?" Claire nodded, although her instinct screamed for them to stop. The air around them was heavy with secrets, and with each new discovery, the feeling that they were being watched grew stronger. They knew the journey had only just begun, and the mysteries that awaited could be darker than they had ever imagined. Claire was lost in her thoughts, the echo of the mysterious call still resonating in her mind. The warning not to tamper with the house felt like a distant caution, but curiosity had always been stronger. Luke, beside her, was trying to focus on the day's tasks, but the heavy atmosphere and the unsettling presence of the secret room they had discovered kept both on edge. It was then that Claire received an anonymous message on her cell phone. Her heart raced as she read the words, "You've unearthed something that should remain hidden." A wave of cold ran down her spine, and she shared the message with Luke, who frowned, worried. "Do you think it's serious?" he asked, looking around as if someone might be watching them. "I don't know, but this doesn't seem like a simple prank." Claire's tone was grave. She felt they were entangled in something much bigger than they imagined. Luke, in turn, was stepping heavier as he walked through the basement, the tension in the air intensifying. Suddenly, a movement caught his attention. He turned quickly, and what he saw made his blood run cold. A sinister figure was standing outside the window, with a hood covering its face. Luke ran to the window, but when he peeked, there was no one there. "Claire, did you see that?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I saw what?" Claire asked, confused. "Are you okay?" "A figure was out there, I swear. Someone was watching us." Luke shook his head, trying to convince himself it was just his imagination. But Claire wasn't sure what to think. The atmosphere was thick with mystery, and the feeling that something was about to happen was palpable. As Luke tried to calm down, a disturbing sound resonated from the back of the basement, as if something was dragging. Claire froze for a moment, but curiosity pushed her to investigate. Together, they approached the source of the sound, and Claire had the impression that something had moved inside the walls. "What was that?" she whispered, fear taking hold of her. "Come on, We need to see what it is. Luke pushed a shelf of tools aside, revealing an old safe hidden behind it. The symbol on the surface of the safe looked familiar to Claire. "This is the same symbol as my grandmother's necklace," she murmured. Luke crouched down and examined the safe. "Let's open it," he said, determined. There might be something important here. With effort, they managed to force the safe open, and inside they found an aged diary and a small box. Claire picked up the diary and, as she flipped through it, came across a torn page. Why would someone tear a page out of a diary? She asked, intrigued. Maybe something important was said there, Luke suggested, as he examined the box. When they opened it, they found an object that looked like an amulet, covered by a worn cloth. "This is strange," he commented, holding the amulet carefully. "What do you think it means?" Claire was about to respond when, suddenly, the clock on the shelf began to work, marking an exact hour. The sound of the ticking echoed through the basement, and a wave of cold swept through the room. "This doesn't make sense," Claire exclaimed, her gaze fixed on the clock. "It was stopped before. How can it have started working now?" "It could be a sign," Luke said, his voice tense. "Maybe something is about to happen. We need to find out what's going on here." As the two looked at each other, the feeling that they were being watched intensified. Luke moved closer to Claire, holding her arm. "Let's take these things and get out of here. We need to tell someone about this. But who? My mom won't believe us." "And you know how she is about these things," Claire replied, her mind spinning with the idea that her grandmother had a dark past. "We need to uncover the truth, Claire. This isn't just about us. It's about our families," Luke insisted, determined. They knew they were only beginning to unravel a mystery that connected them in ways they didn't yet understand. Claire watched the dust dancing in the dim light coming through the attic window. The air was thick with mystery and something she couldn't name. There was something profound in the history of the house, something that called to her. Her mind was racing, trying to connect the dots between what she had discovered so far, the diary, the photo of their grandmother, and the strange feeling that they were being watched. "Do you remember our grandmother?" Claire asked Luke, breaking the silence. She was always so reserved about the family's past. Sometimes it felt like she was keeping secrets. Luke, who was examining the diary they had found in the secret room, lifted his eyes. "Yeah, and our mom never talks about her. I've always thought it was because she wanted to protect us from something. But what we're discovering here is much more than I imagined." He flipped through the yellowed pages, stopping at one that was partially torn. "Look, here. It seems like someone tried to hide something important." Claire leaned in to read. "What does it say?" "I can't tell. The page is almost completely torn out, but there are notes around it that talk about rituals and a final sacrifice." Luke's voice trembled slightly as he said this, as if the weight of the words affected him physically. "A sacrifice? What does that mean?" Claire frowned, a chill running down her spine. Could it be something related to us?" "I don't know, but this seems very serious." Luke bit his lip, clearly disturbed. "We need to understand what happened to our grandmother, what she did, and why our mom never told us." As they talked, Claire stepped back slightly, her gaze falling on a dusty box in the corner of the attic. With a hesitant motion, she approached it and opened it, revealing a series of old objects, including a necklace with a symbol that looked familiar. "Luke, look at this," Claire exclaimed, holding up the necklace. "Isn't it the same symbol that was in the photo? What was written on the back?" "Yes, it's exactly the same." He stepped closer, examining the necklace. "And this means our grandmother was involved in something deeper than just a normal life." Claire felt a tightness in her chest. "What else don't we know?" Her voice was a whisper, as if speaking afraid of awakening something evil. "I don't know, but we need to talk to our mom. She must know more than she's telling." Luke's determination was clear, but the unease in his eyes did not go unnoticed. As they walked down the stairs, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. When they reached the living room, their mother was sitting there with an expression that mixed worry and relief at seeing them. "What did you find?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "We need to talk about Grandma, about what we know." Luke didn't hesitate. "She was involved in secret rituals. What else have you hidden from us?" Their mother hesitated, her gaze slipping away. I didn't want you to get involved in this. The history of our family is dark. I burned many documents about the house years ago to protect you. Protect from what? Claire couldn't hold back her indignation. Now we know there's more than you told us. What was at stake? She took a deep breath, as if deciding whether or not to share. Your grandmother. She made choices. Choices that affected our entire lineage. The secret society she was part of, they believed that power came from sacrifices. The secret society? Luke repeated, his expression of disbelief turning into concern. Are you saying our grandmother was part of that? Yes, and I did what I could to keep you away from it. I can't let history repeat itself. Their mother's voice trembled, revealing a deep fear that Claire had never seen before. But this isn't just about the past, Mom, Claire exclaimed. We're involved now. We need to know the truth. Their mother closed her eyes, as if recalling a nightmare. You don't understand. Some things are better left in the past. But what if those things come back to haunt us? Luke questioned, the tension in the room rising. We need to face this together. We have to understand what's really going on. Their mother looked at them, the pain reflected in her gaze. You must be prepared for what you will find. The truth may be darker than you imagine. Luke and Claire were immersed in a dense atmosphere filled with mystery. The dim light from the basement casting dancing shadows on the walls as they examined the safe they had found. Luke's heart raced, not only from adrenaline but from the anticipation of what they might discover next. He crouched in front of the safe, an old piece with a symbol that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Are you sure you want to open this? Claire asked, her voice hesitant, almost a whisper. What else can we find here that doesn't already scare us? We need to know, Claire. Every clue brings us closer to the truth, Luke replied, his determination unwavering. He looked at her, searching for confidence. Whatever it is, we can't leave it behind. With a careful motion, Luke inserted the key he found in the diary drawer. The metal fit perfectly, and a click echoed in the air as the safe opened. The interior was filled with recorded tapes, stacked haphazardly, each marked with a date and a note that Luke couldn't decipher immediately. He pulled out one of the tapes and held it as if it were a sacred artifact. Look at this, he exclaimed, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. These recordings may contain information about the secret society. Claire leaned over the safe, watching the tapes. If they're recordings of meetings, it could be dangerous. And if someone finds out that we found them? His concern was palpable. The shadow of the sinister figure in the window still lingered in his mind. We need to listen, Luke insisted, already moving toward the recorder they had found on one of the shelves in the basement. If we know what's happening, we can protect ourselves. He connected the recorder and put the tape inside, turning the crank until the recording started. The first voice that echoed in the basement was deep and authoritative, reverberating against the cold walls. The meeting today is crucial. We need to discuss the next steps to ensure that the legacy of our society remains intact, a man said, the tension in his voice undeniable. Luke and Claire exchanged nervous glances. It was as if they were eavesdropping on something they shouldn't. A window into a dark and dangerous world. The traitor among us has not yet been identified, the voice continued. But we know he is here, among our members. We need to act before it is too late. This is frightening, Claire murmured, wrapping her arms around her body as if trying to protect herself from something invisible. What if this person is someone we know? We can't think like that, Luke said, his voice firm, but his heart raced. He turned up the volume, trying to catch every word. Listen. The recording continued, revealing details about rituals and promises of loyalty, as the members discussed plans that involved both sacrifices and rewards. The final ritual is approaching, a younger voice said, filled with anxiety. We need the presence of everyone, especially the chosen ones. The traitor must be exposed before night falls. Claire swallowed hard, her eyes wide. What does that mean? What is this final ritual? Luke felt a chill run down his spine at the recording's last phrase. The last lineage will be revealed. Those who do not belong must be eliminated. He turned to Claire, their pale faces reflecting the same concern. I think this is closer to us than we think. The recording continued, But Luke was increasingly absorbed in his own thoughts. He needed to understand what the connection between them and this society was. What did the final ritual mean for them? What was at stake? When the tape ended, a heavy silence fell over the basement. Luke and Claire looked at each other, both aware that they had unearthed something much larger than they had imagined. "We need to find out who these people are," Luke said, determination returning to his gaze. "And what really happened to our families?" Claire nodded slowly, the gravity of the situation beginning to weigh on her shoulders. "What if the traitor is someone we love?" "We need to be ready for anything," Luke replied, already taking the initiative to grab another tape. He knew that by seeking answers, they were putting themselves on a point of no return. Claire was restless as she explored the newly discovered compartment. The feeling that something was watching her lingered, like a shadow refusing to disappear. She turned to Luke, who was absorbed in examining the recorded tapes. The atmosphere was thick with palpable tension, and the air felt denser, as if something was about to happen. "Did you find anything interesting?" Claire asked, trying to suppress the chill running down her spine. "These tapes," Luke began, but his voice faltered as he came across an image on the recorder screen. "It looks like they were documenting everything, every ritual, every meeting. This is insane." Claire leaned closer to see better. "What if they are talking about us? About our family, I don't know, but this doesn't look good," Luke replied, running a hand through his hair. "We need to be careful. What else can we discover here?" The moment Claire touched an object inside the compartment, a sharp pain shot through her arm. She looked down, alarmed, and saw a symbol, a strange mark, beginning to form on her skin. The sensation was like a burn forming, pulsing with a sinister rhythm. "Claire." "What happened?" Luke exclaimed, in sudden panic, leaving the tapes behind. He quickly approached, holding her arm. This is dangerous. I don't know." "I just touched that amulet," Claire murmured, her eyes wide. "What's happening? What's happening to me?" Luke looked around as if expecting something or someone to appear. "We need to get out of here. This house. There's something wrong. I can feel it. And now you are marked." Claire's mind was in shambles. What did that mark mean? What did the secret society have to do with her? What do you think this represents? Something they did? "I don't know, but we can't ignore it. We need to talk to your mom." "She might know something about this," Luke suggested, forcing himself to stay calm despite the growing sense of urgency. "My mom. She never talks about the past. It's always been a taboo," Claire replied, frustration showing in her voice. "Then let's find out on our own. We can investigate more about the society, about what they really want. But first, we need to check on how your mark is doing," Luke insisted, his eyes fixed on Claire's skin, where the symbol seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Claire nodded, but before they could move, a disturbing sound echoed through the basement. It sounded like a drumbeat, reverberating against the cold walls as if something was approaching. Claire's heart raced. "Did you hear that?" "Yes, and it's not good," Luke said, looking anxiously at the door. "Let's go. We need to leave. Now." They ran toward the stairs, but when they reached the top, Claire hesitated. "What if that mark is linked to what we found? What if it means we're in danger? We need to know what we're facing." Luke looked at her, his face tense. "If it's true, then the longer we stay here, the more we risk becoming part of it. Come on, Claire. We can't take that risk." She took a deep breath, fighting against the anxiety that was overwhelming her. "All right. Let's go." But before they could leave, the basement door swung open with a bang. A hooded figure was standing in the entrance, watching them. Claire felt her stomach churn, fear consuming her. "Who are you?" Luke asked, his voice firm, but Claire sensed he was just as scared as she was. The figure did not respond, merely raised a hand, showing a symbol identical to the mark on Claire's arm. "You unearthed something that should have remained hidden." The voice was low and resonated with a threatening tone. Claire felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you want from us?" she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. "You have no idea what you've done. But now, you are connected to it, and there is no turning back." The figure stepped forward, and the air seemed to grow heavier around them. Luke held Claire's hand, squeezing it as if he could protect her from that menacing presence. "We are ready to face whatever it is," he declared, though his voice trembled. "Then prepare yourselves." "The past is not something you can ignore," the figure said before disappearing into the darkness of the basement, leaving Luke and Claire alone, the weight of what they had discovered hanging over them like an unwanted shadow. The atmosphere in the basement of the old house inherited by Luke and Claire was heavier than ever. The sound of the old clock stopped, and the dim light of a hanging lamp swayed slowly, as if trying to say something about what was about to happen. Luke looked at Claire, who was holding a tape in her trembling hands. They had just watched a recording that revealed the dark truth of their families and the connection they both had to the secret society. Luke's heart raced as he heard the words echoing in his mind. "You are directly connected to the final ritual that the society planned." "You heard that too, didn't you?" Luke asked, his voice laden with disbelief. He turned to Claire, seeking confirmation in her eyes. "This means our families are involved in something much bigger than we thought." Claire nodded, the expression on her face a mix of fear and determination. "Yes, and this changes everything. We need to understand what this means for us. We can't ignore this." She remembered the photo of her grandmother and the ritual, and a new wave of unease washed over her. "I can't believe my dad could be involved in this," Luke said, frustration evident in his voice. "He disappeared years ago, but now it seems he might be alive and actively participating in this society." Claire frowned. "Do you think he is one of them? That he could have let all of this happen?" "I don't know," Luke replied, running his hand through his hair, desperate for answers. "But we need to find out more. It's like we've been pulled into something we don't understand." The tension grew with every passing second. Claire took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. What if this society is planning something? Something that involves both of us? What do they want from us, Luke? Luke looked deeply into Claire's eyes. "Whatever it is, we need to be prepared. We can't let them catch us off guard." He picked up the tape and, with a quick motion, began to rewind it. The tape squeaked and then started playing again. They heard voices whispering about a final sacrifice and the society's legacy. "This doesn't make sense," Claire murmured, her mind spinning with the gravity of what they were hearing. A final sacrifice. What does that even mean? "Maybe it's something they need to complete the ritual," Luke said, his eyes widening as the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. "What if that sacrifice is me?" The thought made his stomach churn. "No, Luke. It can't be you." "We have to find a way to stop this," Claire responded, her voice raised and filled with panic. "But what if the only way to stop this is to find out who we really are to them? We need to find more clues, Claire. We need to know who we are, so we can fight against this." Luke was determined, but the uncertainty in his eyes did not go unnoticed. As they discussed, Claire noticed a mark on her arm, a strange shape, a scar that hadn't been there before. "Look at this." She pulled up the sleeve of her shirt, revealing the symbol that seemed to pulse on her skin. "What is this?" "I touched one of the objects in the compartment, and now this has appeared." Luke stepped closer, examining the symbol closely. "This could be a sign, Claire. A warning. Whatever we've awakened isn't happy." Claire felt a chill run down her spine. What if they know we're here? What if the society is watching us right now? The tension between them was palpable, a thread about to snap. Luke took a deep breath, trying to calm his thoughts. "We need to be smart. We can't let them manipulate us. We need to uncover the truth, and if necessary, confront them. Confront them." "Are you serious?" Claire replied, incredulity in her voice. "What if they are stronger than us? What if they have more allies? We don't have a choice," he said firmly. "If we don't do this, we risk losing everything. And if the truth about our families is even darker than we imagined, we need to be ready to face it head on." Claire nodded slowly, determination beginning to blossom within her. "Then let's uncover the truth, Luke." Together, with a new sense of purpose, they prepared to face the unknown, determined to uncover the secrets that their families had hidden for so long. Luke and Claire crept through the dark streets of Philadelphia, their hearts pounding to the frantic rhythm of adrenaline. The night was thick, and the light breeze seemed to whisper secrets as they approached the mansion where the secret society gathered. The dim light emanating from the fogged windows of the house seemed to promise both revelations and dangers. Luke asked, "Are you ready for this?" The worry evident in his voice. He looked at Claire, who held the mask they would wear to disguise themselves. Her eyes shone with determination, but there was a shadow of doubt he couldn't ignore. "We have no choice, Luke. We need to find out the truth," she replied, fastening the mask to her face. With a nod, Luke put on his own mask, and together they crossed the wrought iron gate, which creaked as a warning that they were entering a world they did not fully understand. The interior of the house was oppressive, adorned with dark tapestries and candles casting dancing shadows on the walls. They could hear murmurs and muffled laughter coming from a room at the back. "This is it," Luke whispered, taking Claire's hand. They moved toward the ajar door leading to the main room. What they saw inside made their hearts race. The room was filled with people dressed in ceremonial attire, hoods concealing their faces. In the center, a tall table was covered with lit candles and strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. The air was thick with the scent of melted wax and something else. Something reminiscent of incense, but with a touch of decay. "Look," Claire whispered, discreetly pointing to the group preparing for a ritual. "That one. He's wearing my grandmother's necklace." Luke followed her gaze and felt a chill run down his spine. The man standing there in a black cloak wore an ornate necklace, the same one Claire had seen in an old photo of her grandmother. "This means she was really involved," he murmured, his mind spinning with the enormity of the discovery. "We need to find out who they are," Claire insisted, her eyes fixed on the leader of the ritual. "If my grandmother was a traitor, what does that mean for us?" As they watched, the atmosphere carried a palpable tension. The leader raised his hands, and a reverent silence fell over the group. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice echoing in the room, "today, we gather to celebrate the continuity of our lineage and to ensure that the legacy of our ancestors never dies." "Legacy?" Luke whispered to Claire, his heart racing. "What legacy?" "Shh. Listen," Claire replied, her attention fully on what the leader was saying. "We have a new chosen one among us," the man continued, his gaze slowly sweeping over the group. "One who carries in their veins the pure blood of the ancients. One who will become the next guardian of our secrets." Luke felt his stomach twist. The idea of being involved in something so sinister and ancient terrified him. "This can't be true," he murmured, but Claire held him tightly. "We need to find out who it is," she insisted, her eyes determined. The leader then called forward a figure standing closer, a woman who approached, her face partially covered by the shadow of her hood. "The proof of our loyalty is sacrifice," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Those who are not willing to give everything do not belong to us." The tension in the room escalated, and Luke felt a chill run down his spine. A sacrifice? He didn't want to believe this could be true. He looked at Claire, who was pale, but her eyes shone with an intensity he couldn't ignore. "We need to get out of here," he whispered, gently pulling her back. But before they could move, the man wearing the necklace pointed in their direction. "We have intruders." His voice echoed through the room, and panic spread. "Hey, quick, let's go," Claire shouted, and the two ran away from the room, their hearts racing, knowing they had unearthed something that could change everything. The atmosphere in the inherited house of Claire and Luke was charged with tension. The walls, which had once seemed merely a shelter for their family secrets, now pulsed with a rumble of distrust and fear. Claire was trapped in a dark ritual, surrounded by hooded figures murmuring words in an ancient language. The cold emanating from the floor seemed to seep into her bones, and she knew she was at an inescapable crossroads. "Claire, you have to understand," said a familiar yet distorted voice from the leader of the society. "If you do not join us, everything you love will be destroyed." She looked around, recognizing some of the voices, but unable to identify the faces hidden in the shadows. Her heart raced as she realized Luke might be in danger. "No, I won't join you. Leave Luke alone." Her voice echoed through the room, but the dark laughter surrounded her, almost mocking her bravery. Meanwhile, Luke, in another part of the house, found himself in a maze of old documents and dust-covered objects. He discovered a folder marked with his family name, and urgency grew within him. "It can't be," he murmured to himself as he flipped through the yellowed pages. Among accounts of rituals and promises of power, one sheet caught his attention. The final sacrifice. I can't be this, Luke whispered, feeling the weight of the revelation crashing down on his shoulders. He needed to find Claire. He needed to save her. Back in the ritual room, Claire was being confronted by one of the society members. You have no choice, Claire. If you don't join us, Luke will pay the price. You know this is true. The voice was soft, but the threat was clear. If you touch him, I promise I won't be the only one to suffer, Claire shouted, her determination growing. Her steadfast gaze made the member hesitate. I won't let you do this. At that crucial moment, Luke appeared in the doorway, breathless. Claire. He saw her surrounded, and his heart sank. What's happening? Luke, no, Claire shouted, but it was too late. The figures turned in his direction, and the tension rose. The leader of the society made a gesture, and the lights in the room began to flicker. Ah, the heir finally arrives, the leader said with a satisfied smile. You must understand, Luke, that your presence here is more than a coincidence. You have been chosen for the final sacrifice. Final sacrifice, Luke repeated, perplexed. I won't be a part of this. No one needs to die. That's the only way for the society to continue to thrive, the leader replied, his tone resonating with the certainty of someone used to commanding. And you are the chosen one. You know your family has a legacy to fulfill. Luke looked at Claire, who was now with tears in her eyes. No, Luke. No matter what they say, we can fight this together. But uncertainty began to eat away at Luke's courage. He didn't want to believe it was true. He didn't want to be what they said he was. I am not a sacrifice, he shouted, his voice echoing through the room. You are, and you cannot escape it. And you, Claire, will have to choose. Join us or lose each other forever, the leader said, as the air around them seemed to constrict, making the situation even more oppressive. It was then that Luke found documents revealing not only the fate that had been imposed on him, but also the dark truth about his mother. She knew about all this, he thought, confusion growing in his mind. What else didn't he know about his own story? Luke, what are you thinking? Claire asked, noticing the change in his expression. What did you find? I need to know more. I can't leave you here, Luke said, his gaze determined. I will fight for us, no matter what that means. At that moment, the room shook with the sound of a powerful beat. Claire felt that the decision was approaching, and a shadow of doubt settled in her heart. Luke, you don't understand. If you oppose them, it may be too late. I don't want to lose you. And so, as they stared at each other, the pressure mounted, and the weight of the choices they had to make hung in the air. Luke, caught between the pain of discovery and the promise to fight, and Claire, torn between her love for Luke and the terror of what the society might do, knew that the final confrontation would be closer than they ever imagined. The air was heavy and charged with tension as Claire and Luke faced each other in the center of the hall, shadows dancing around them. The room was lit only by flickering candles, casting grotesque shapes on the walls. Claire had a resolute look, but her heart raced. She knew the moment to reveal the truth had come. Claire, what's happening? Did you know about all this? Luke asked, his voice trembling, mixing confusion and anger. Why didn't you tell me? She took a deep breath, her eyes moist but steady. I didn't want to involve you, Luke. I thought that if I got closer to you, I could better understand the connection between our families and this society. And now? What do you gain from this? Did you manipulate me? Luke was one step away from exploding. The pain in his eyes was palpable. He felt betrayed, as if the foundations of his life had crumbled all at once. No, that's not how it works. I cared about you, Luke, Claire exclaimed, desperation beginning to show in her voice. I needed to find out if you were really what they said, if you were the sacrifice, or the heir. Luke shook his head as if trying to push away a fog. What do you mean by heir? What's going on? Claire hesitated, the revelation choking her. The rituals. They're not just for sacrifices. They need a leader. And you are the chosen one. Luke, that's why your presence is so important to them. You are not the final sacrifice. You are the heir, destined to lead them. He stepped back, as if a physical blow had struck him. No, this can't be true. His words came out as a whisper lost among the shadows. I don't want any of this. Claire took a step toward him, pleading, Luke, listen, you don't have to accept this. We can escape together. We can end all of this. Before he could respond, a scream echoed from the back of the room. The leaders of the society emerged from the shadows, surrounding them like hungry predators. Luke recognized his mother's face among them, and betrayal hit him like a knife. Mom, what are you doing here? He shouted, pain and confusion overflowing in his voice. Luke, you don't understand. It's for your own good, she replied, her expression a mix of concern and firmness. You have been chosen for a greater purpose. Greater? You're telling me you handed me over to this madness? You used me, Luke exclaimed, his voice echoing in the room. You are the traitor they mentioned in the tapes. Claire looked at Luke, anguished. We need to get out of here, Luke. Now. One of the hooded figures stepped forward, their deep voice resonating like thunder. There is no escaping your destiny, Luke. Accept it. Join us, or face the consequences. Luke looked at Claire, determination rising within him. I will never be one of them. Never. He turned, searching for an exit, but the group advanced, surrounding them. If you do not join the society, the consequences will be severe, her mother said, the pain in her eyes evident, but her voice was firm. Claire, you don't need to get involved any further. Let him go. Claire looked at Luke, her eyes shining with unshed tears. No, Mom, I will fight for him. And, in a moment of desperation, she lunged toward Luke. I won't let you become that. Claire, no, Luke shouted, but it was already too late. She positioned herself between Luke and the society leaders, determination in her gaze. If you really care about me, you have to let me do this, Claire said, her voice strong despite the fear. I will do whatever it takes to save you. The hooded figures hesitated, and in that moment of indecision, Claire did what no one expected. With a swift motion, she pulled a small object from her pocket, a charm she had found in the room, and raised it. If I am the key to destroy this, then I offer myself. The silence that followed was deafening. Luke felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. Claire, no, you don't need to do this. But her decision was made. She looked at Luke, her eyes filled with love and determination. I won't let you sacrifice yourself. I will do whatever it takes. And so, with one last look, she surrendered to the ritual, a glow of hope and darkness intertwining around her. The climax of the night unfolded, and Luke realized that her choice could very well trigger something even darker, something that would change their lives forever. The room seemed to close in around them, and a new era of secrets and mysteries was about to be revealed. So, what did you think of this story? Your opinion is essential for us to improve our content. Write what you thought in the comments and remember to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.